Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Steve Lawson.
My name is Anya Fofana.
Welcome to this ISMRM scan session here. We are live at our headquarters here in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And we are happy today to present to you some neuro scanning on our SIGNA Premier system. So specifically, some of the topics that we'll be talking about. So specifically, some of the topics that we'll be talking about will be around the latest software release that we have just released to many customers throughout. That is called the Signalworks AirIQ edition. And this really helps a lot. It's got a lot of great productivity enhancements and overall a lot of tools that really help boost the image quality on your systems. Specifically speaking and how it could relate to a lot of things that you do with neuro. We do have an acceleration technique called Hypersense, which is GE's compressed sensing technique. We have expanded this out across for T1 weighted imaging, for MP Rage and Bravo. We have artificial intelligence and deep learning running directly on the scanner to automatically do slice prescription with something that we call AirX. Some great things with osteo to image cortical bone. And then another feature also called vessel wall imaging, or MSDE. So these sequences, or these things in particular, are a great addition to the Signalworks family, and we think that you guys will enjoy this. So real quickly, just touching on some of these. So with AirX brain in particular, we're able to do automated slice prescription. You'll see it today during the scan session, but regardless of the patient's head position, you're able to get consistency from time point to time point because of the way the slices are automatically prescribed using our deep learning and AI running directly on the scanner. This is significantly improving the workflow for the technologist. So it's about 5 times faster for exam setup, and you have about 4 times fewer mouse clicks. We've also expanded it in this software release also to include knee imaging. Another thing too, with the addition of Hypersense to the T1 3D gradient echo sequences, particularly in neuroimaging, we'd be looking at Bravo and MP Rage. You can see here with these slides that you're able to get without Hypersense about a 5-minute acquisition, but yet keeping the same resolution simply by turning Hypersense on. We reduce the scan time down to about 3 minutes. So this allows you to get, if you were okay with keeping a longer scan time, you can even get an improved spatial resolution even faster than a scan without Hypersense. So it's a really great way to increase resolution while and quality while maintaining great productivity and workflow. In regards to black blood imaging with Cube MSDE, this is a really interesting sequence that allows you to suppress the flow in vessels to be able to get better visualization of some small problematic areas in the brain, to be able to see the vessel wall much clearer. But I do think probably one of the most interesting things that we've got with this software release is the addition of recon DL. So recon DL, you'll see during the session today, but it can increase your productivity, it reduces scan times, it leverages the raw data of the acquisition to denoise that by running it through a different reconstruction pipeline. So in the end, you end up with much clearer, much sharper images. And it's user definable. The user can select the level of denoising that they would want to do with that. Here's a great example of how you could use it to reduce the overall duration of the exam and still maintain excellent image quality. Here's an image here from our collaborators showing that they wanted a extremely high resolution scan of the pituitary, so they were doing 1.5 millimeters thick without a recon DL to get adequate signal. The duration of that particular scan is quite long. But by having this algorithm running directly on the scanner, they're able to not be so concerned about noise, maintain the spatial resolution and slice thickness that they wanted to get, And if you notice, the scan time is, all of these sequences, is just a little bit longer than the single scan without AirRecon DL. It can be applied through any region in the body. So here's an example of scanning an entire lumbar spine. You know, each of these sequences are around a minute or so. So usually you can get a lumbar spine exam in 5 or 6 minutes. Also with the software release, this is new for this particular release, but we have expanded AirRecon DL throughout to diffusion. So that really helps, you know, improve the overall image quality on these scans. We see diffusion becoming increasingly popular across, you know, many different clinical care pathways, but the end is still the same, where we're increasing the spatial resolution, getting much better images. You'll notice on these scans that you'll see today that the improvement in ADC maps, everything from the quantitative perspective looks much better. And then also the synthetically created diffusion weighted images also will be improved. But this is a great feature, and we're really happy to bring this and expand it out across diffusion weighted imaging. AirRecon DL is available across the entire portfolio. So although today we are scanning on our 3T SIGNA Premier system, we do have AirRecon DL available across even older systems that are in the install base, even at 1.5T platforms. So all of these systems can be upgraded to the latest software release, allowing you to use this sequence and, you know, many others that I mentioned earlier too. But this is a great thing for AirRecon DL and a great thing for a lot of our that they'll be able to have this featured directly on their scanner. So some of the things that you'll see today will be all related to neuro. Just quickly wanted to touch on one thing. We do have a 48-channel head coil that we will be using today, and this particular coil is a really nice coil to be able to do high-end neuro imaging. It is compatible with our comfort tilt, which allows the coil to be tilted up to meet the patient. It is expandable. You can extend the anterior piece 3 centimeters away from the posterior piece and still maintain excellent image quality. And you're also able to do enough coverage also for cervical spine imaging. So I think without further ado, maybe we jump into the scan session. One comment that I do want to make, if you guys have questions throughout the scan, if you have questions, please put them into the chat and we'll try to address those. All right, thank you.
Okay, you come in. Just lay on your back. Here, there, foot, please. Put a knee pillow underneath. Awesome. Make it comfortable.
Yes.
Okay. You can keep your hands up, but you can just do. Okay. So I just put some pillows right in there and make your head better. So it's enough hold. And now maybe you can rotate a little bit your head because we want to start and looking at your brain in a rotated environment, and then after the first sequence, I will put it straight. Everything comfortable?
Yep.
Awesome. Here's the squeeze bar in your left hand, and then we just landmark with the IntelliTouch, and you just go straight in for your first step. So here's the user interface. We already predefined the name and everything. We have selected our protocol for today, and then we start the exam. The first thing we want to talk a little bit of is our SAR management. So you can see you can easily switch from first to normal level, and then we have something new also, which we call low SAR. When we click here, then you get an entire new user interface where you can customize your SAR levels. So if you are scanning a patient with an implant, you can now easily switch maybe your maximum SAR here, and then you still can scan your routine protocol without worrying about reaching the SAR, which is really, really convenient. So we go back to our first level, start and run a normal 3-plane localizer. And also here you see the first thing showing up automatically, which is our SAR management, our SAR scout. On all of our 3T scanners, we have an automated SAR scan running every single time when we do a brain scan. The scanner knows that we have the brain coil on the table, that we have landmarked in a certain position, and then automatically the SAR scout is kicking in and estimating the SAR for that volunteer with his weight and how he's positioned on the board.
Yeah. Yeah, so for SAR-sensitive areas, like in the head, you basically are able, the system's able to assess how much tissue is in the RF field. And as you mentioned, it modifies your protocols based on that. So I think in the past, scanning on 3T could be some significant challenges that people had. They would do a scan that could be really intense with SAR, and then they might have a pause or have to modify parameters to make it through that acquisition. But by doing it this way, then you're able to not have to interleave high SAR, low SAR scans like a gradient echo. You can just continually scan your routine protocols and not be concerned about that.
Okay, our 3-plane localizer has detected that we've positioned the volunteer not really straight in the board, and that is really kind of the scenario when you have a stroke patient, right? So we want to just show how even in those scenarios, AirX, our first deep learning, is working precisely. So AirX is a feature which has been trained on different localizers, I think 36,000 in total, and trained on like patients with diseases, without diseases. And now, based on that training, we are prescribing slices. You can see here on the user interface. We have selected the ACPC line in actual planes, and as you can see on the localizer, even his head is rotated really by 25 degrees, I would say. AirX is still doing a great job in finding those slices. And we will run the first scan, and we will repeat that scan afterwards, after we positioned him in a straight way to really understand if AirX does the same job again.
This will be really nice for patients that return for follow-up studies, so if they have to come back, maybe they have a disease that progressively is maybe worsening, follow-up study, just to simply use a 3-plane localizer, nothing else is needed, right? Just a standard 3-plane localizer, and all of the anatomic landmarks are found within that. So from a workflow perspective, it's great, but also for patient longitudinal studies, it's going to help you out a lot too.
Yeah, and what I don't miss anymore to get the old data first on the scanner and look through and make sure that I prescribe exactly in the same way. If you use the deep learning feature, you don't have to look at old images. You can just use that feature and be sure that the prescription is done in exactly the same way. Okay. So that is a pretty fast scan, 44 seconds, and we talk a little bit more about that once we've seen the results. Now we go in and position him straight. I have to repeat the normal 3-plane localizer.
Okay, Adam, I'm going to bring you out. Just go ahead and straighten your head up now, okay? Turn your head straight. Straight. All right, let's sit you back in.
Thank you. Now he is straight in the board. We just repeat the normal 3-plane localizer, and then we repeat the same scan. So first deep learning, we talked about AirX slice description. Now we're talking about the second deep learning we have on our scanner, which is recon DL.
Yes.
So recon DL is deep learning because we trained the model to understand which part of the K space is noise and which part of the K space is signal. And what do we need in MR? the signal. And what do we want? Don't want the noise. So we remove all the noise already out of the case space, and we can use AirIQ DL now to get like different approaches. The first approach we showed you is to be really, really fast in scan times. So I just open up, that's exactly the same scan as scan number 2, also 44 seconds. So first of all, I want to open up, and you see the localizer is now straight, and even though like the position and everything has changed, AirX still finds the slice prescription the same way. And the second thing is deep learning here. So this scan is scanned with 4mm slices through the brain. We do still have a really decent in-plane resolution with 0.6 by 0.6 in-plane resolution. We scan only 44 seconds because here in the details page, you can see that we've selected AirIQ DL and we've set the strength to high, which means we remove most of the noise out of the image. Mm-hmm. So that allows us to really scan with less averages, still being high in acceleration. Usually when you would do that with only one average and some acceleration, you would get really, really noisy images. But using AirIQ DL allows us to be really having nice images and have short scan times. The second example we are going to show you here is again a T2 scan. And that we will scan with AirIQ DL again. But we use even thinner slices. So we cover the brain 3mm slices, and we do have a voxel size of 0.4 by 0.4. So way higher resolution than we did in the first scan. And also here, the same rules apply. So usually when we scan with these resolution types, you would have really noisy images. But with AirIQ DL, we just remove the noise. So it's not a filter. Maybe we should highlight and emphasize that too. Yep. We just remove the noise already like in the case space and reconstruct these images without the noise.
Right. It's a different reconstruction pipeline than a standard or conventional image reconstruction. And as you mentioned, it helps you to go faster, higher resolution. But, you know, you can do some really interesting things with your protocols. You know, as bandwidth increases, you would typically lose signal. But with those particular protocols, then you're going to really get, you know, sharper images because of the blurring that could happen as, you know, as using a smaller bandwidth. So your protocols can be optimized to really tweak and improve the image quality.
Here's just an example. We don't have to run it, but just for slice description that we have not only the ACPC line available, but also we do have the temporal lobe, the inner ear, the OM line, the optic nerves, the pituitary, and the circle of Willis. And here we show you that on an example of the pituitary. Slice coverage is perfect again, so we don't really have to look at any additional images. We can just trust AirX and scan, but we don't run the scan in that case.
Yeah. So in the case of maybe temporal lobes or something that you wanted to show, right? So if you were to set that up, can you show the just not run it maybe, but just show the accuracy of that particular setup?
Yeah, we just go ahead and I just pull that sequence here over for the temporal lobe. It's usually like done in coronal planes, I would say. So here we see coronal example. I have to just select one more time the brain. And then I will select the temporal lobe. I will select the plane, which is coronal. And then I want to like really go through the sagittal plane here, the localizer, maybe zoom in a little bit more so that you can see how precise the algorithm really finds the first slice of the temporal lobe and goes from there.
That's great.
Okay, then we want to show you our Muse feature, which is a multi-shot diffusion technique. And we want to show a Muse scan done through the entire brain. And we run, even though it's a 2D scan, but we run an isotropic voxel, 1.8 squared. So the scan will take 2 minutes and 13 seconds, and we can look at the images after. Okay, so let me just get that cleaned up here a little bit. And then the next scan we want to show is our routine diffusion technique, because also the routine diffusion is now available with AirIQ DL. So in that we want to show a 2 millimeter scan through the entire brain. Okay, so we will have here an AirIQ DL turned on with the setting again to high. We will run through the entire brain in 2 millimeter slice thicknesses, and we will have again like a squared voxel. And for the diffusion, we are going to have two p-values. The one we are scanning with 1000, but we will also going to synthesize a p-value. And maybe we go ahead and synthesize a p-value of 2000, and we look at the results there.
So this is the new software, right? So recon DL had been out, I guess, for I don't know, maybe 6 months or so, customers using it. But we have the Signalworks AirIQ edition, which now includes recon DL on diffusion, single-shot EPI diffusion, as well as focus diffusion. So you can scan, your abdominal diffusions or spine diffusions, whatever. Prostate diffusions, all of those using the new recon DL features. So that really helps. If you look at some of the things, as you mentioned, the synthetic diffusions, even though you're not actually acquiring a high p-value diffusion without recon DL, those scans can be a little bit longer. But now the image quality will be much improved on those generated images, as well as the ADC maps. Yep.
So maybe just to like close out the session and talk about our 3D options here as well. So on the for the T1 contrast for our MP Rage, we are now able also to combine that with Hypersense. You can see here that we have selected Hypersense with a factor of 1.2. This will be again like really an isotropic 1 millimeter scan. We have now the chance to scan that in 2 minutes and 51 seconds. And just to show you guys what the difference will be when we wouldn't have Hypersense on our MP Rage sequences, I'm going to show you how to deselect it. So it's an imaging option. And I deselect Hypersense, it's turned off. You see it's gone here on the user interface, and the scan time is almost like,
it's a lot longer.
Yeah, we don't want to scan like that, right?
Yep.
And just to like maybe show you other options for Hypersense. We don't have to scan it, but just to show you how you maybe can optimize your 3D cube sequence. Here's an example for the flare. So the flare is done with FatSet and cube. Let me just open that up for a second. And here you can see, again, really good resolution with 1 millimeter. And we have scan time only 3 minutes and 40 seconds because, again, Hypersense is selected here with a factor of 1.2. But on top of Hypersense, we have HyperCube also available on these cube flare sequences. What does that mean? So we can set the excitation mode to focus, and now when we look at the readout direction, which is here anterior to posterior, we don't read out the entire phase field of view. We shorten it down to, again, save scan time. So maybe also here an example, we don't want to scan it, but I just want to show you guys how the difference is when we like make that, again, large, 100, and then we deselect Hypersense. Also here, the scan time would be way longer. We would have, let the machine calculate it, we would have 5 minutes, 24 seconds compared to 3 minutes. So again, huge. And a last sequence we really want to show the power of Hypersense is on our TOF sequence. So here, first thing, again, we've selected AirX to do the slice prescription. So it's safe to circle of Willis and actual planes. We do have, again, like really, really high resolution scans. And we can do that in 3 minutes and 7 because we have Hypersense selected.
So AirX really makes it a lot easier for technologists, and it's going to be much more accurate. We did have some previous technology that used an atlas base or template to be able to do anatomic landmarks and localization. But using the power of deep learning and artificial intelligence, this is going to give us much better results than those previous types of options. If you're more interested in seeing or reading about AirX and the accuracy and how it works, we do have an article that's in Signal Pulse magazine, and we can put the notes in the link to that in the meeting chat.
So let's review some of the images. Okay, let's then get them all ready here into the browser. That is the scan we did first, the T2, which was done in the fast way, where we compared the two different positionings, where we used AirX. And maybe we just zoom in a little bit more to really maybe look at structures which we can recognize easily, maybe the inner ear, to see how AirX did the job in prescribing the slices.
So despite two different head positions, everything looks pretty much like it's in plane. Yeah, so it's a nice thing.
So let's get the high resolution scan we did at the same time here. So we just go and show the high resolution scan, and then maybe we show the original images for that one as well, which is without AirRecon DL. So left-hand side is with AirRecon DL, right-hand side is the original case-based image where we have all the noise still in the image. So just to give you an idea of like how much noise AirRecon DL is available to remove. And maybe we zoom in here a little bit more as well, and maybe go to some structures here in the brain behind. So this is the high resolution scan where we did like 3 millimeter slice thicknesses through the entire brain. You can see how nice you can see and the detail here everywhere. And on the right hand side, still the detail is there, but it's like overlaid with some noise, so it's harder to look at these images, right?
Yeah.
Then we did some diffusion scans as well, right? So let's start with the Muse to review. So here I want to show you the Muse scan. And also here I load that in. Where is it? Here we go. So this Muse was done with an isotropic voxel 1.8. Just want to show you the T2 images first to really go through the areas where we usually have a lot of distortions, and you see Muse is taking care of that. Let's switch to the 1000 B value, also here on that side, and then since it was isotropic, let's see how the reformats look like.
Oh, it's very nice, yeah. You have limited susceptibility artifact at the temporal lobes there, so it's really nice to be able to get a volume for kind of a pseudo 3D volume, right? Using thin sliced T2 or thin sliced diffusion imaging.
Okay, then we did the conventional diffusion technique where we've used hyperband also to speed up the images, and we've did also isotropic voxel with 2 millimeter in play. Let's just go ahead and get the images here ready, and we did the synthetic diffusion here as well. Let me just split my screen. We go to 3x3 first, and I will show you the ADC maps there as well. Also here, we just show you the 1000 B value first, and then here is the, let me just go to 7 series. Okay, here is the original ADC map and the synthetic diffusion. So these are all done already with AirRecon DL, and the scan time, maybe we should highlight that, it was 38 seconds.
For 2x2x2 resolution, right? So
synthesized ADC map and the original. Maybe we should look here also at the images without AirRecon DL.
Sure.
Just maybe to show you guys what the machine is capable of doing. So I will match all those images for the original ones. So here is the original diffusion image. Then we have the original image synthesized and the original ADC map. Sorry, that was the wrong viewer. Yeah, I think I don't have to say anything, right?
Change that one in the bottom left, that to the P1000
Yeah.
there. There we go.
Right. So nice to not have the noise anymore.
Mhm.
And here we see the scan time, 38 seconds.
38 seconds for very high resolution diffusion scan. It's great.
Okay. Then maybe we just review our MP range. I maybe go again to a split layout here, but 2 by 2, and we have there an isotropic voxel 1 by 1 as well, where we've used hypersense. Scan time was only 2 minutes, and here maybe also we go to just a reformat. It's also nice that we can finally use hypersense for the MP range scans.
Yeah, as we mentioned, this is a new part, a new feature for Signalworks AirIQ edition. So adding hypersense to Bravo, MP Rage, even the white matter null Bravo, you can add it there. But as well as other parts in the body too. So you have Lava, Lava Flex, Disco, all of those acquisitions, Vibrant, all compatible with hypersense 3D volumes now, T1 weighted 3D volumes.
And that's maybe the last thing we want to show you guys is we did also the TOF scan with a really isotropic voxel. So done in 3 minutes and 7 seconds. And maybe just to make it nice, we quickly just cut off the bone a little bit.
Interesting thing about this scan is this is true resolution. This is not interpolated slice resolution. This is a true, I think it was 0.6.
0.6.
0.6 by 0.6 by 0.6 in only 3 minutes. So normally without this, I think the scan time's like 7 minutes or 8 minutes, something like that.
7 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, great, guys. So that concludes this scan session. We appreciate everyone's attention and hope you can join for some future sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.